Hi everyone, here is a short highlight video to cover the main points of last week's Mindful Educator study on February 3rd. In last week's session, we continued the discussion on the systemic nature of educator stress and burnout. We discussed that while we can practice skills to support our physical body's ability to cope with stress, we're still left with so many external stressors. This is no easy problem to solve, but in last week's session, we continued to bring this conversation forward by exploring how meditation practice can be a first step in lasting change. So, I want to take a moment to just review the three components of burnout that we discussed a couple sessions ago, just to really get a grounding of what we're talking about when we're talking about the systemic amount of stress and burnout in education. So, the first component is emotional exhaustion, or the fatigue that comes from caring too much. The second is depersonalization, which is the depletion of empathy, caring, and compassion. And the third is a decreased sense of accomplishment, an unconquerable sense of futility, feeling that nothing you do makes a difference. So we then went on to discuss how educator stress and burnout is a really complex and challenging problem for us because there are so many internal and external stressors that are working against us. I pulled this quote from Brene Brown that I thought did a really good job of allowing us to understand just how complex this problem is. She says, in a society that says put yourself last, self-love and self-acceptance are almost revolutionary, meaning that if we want to create lasting change, we have to do something that's almost revolutionary to be able to do that. So I don't think that there's anybody that has all of the answers for what it is to create this lasting change. But what we discussed is that there is so much power in creating a shift in our cultural habits, and we can do this by reattuning to our cultural values. We then went on to discuss how we can begin this shift by changing our own habits and reattuning to our own personal values. We referenced Kelly McGonigal, who is a habit change expert and the coach in the Habits course of the 10% Happier app. And she shares how habit change is actually a process of self discovery and finding ways to live with integrity for what matters to you. So, to do this, we spent some good time in our own meditation practice and then paired this with some deep reflection around our own values and needs. So, this is a really great practice that can help us sort of declutter all of the different things that we're balancing and really reattune or refocus on those areas that matter the most. This is a great way for us to create change from the inside for just us, but it also can help us better communicate and work with other people by understanding their values and needs as well. So we had two options for meditation practice from Oren Sofer in the relationships course. We chose session 8, empathy and building goodwill, and then a bonus meditation, number 15, on self-empathy. Both of these meditations were about 15 minutes long, which is a bit of a longer sit. And before we jumped in, I wanted to give us some tips to sort of help us get it through these longer meditations if they start to be uncomfortable. So, if you are somebody who is having a challenging time making it through longer meditations, then the first thing I want you to know is that you are not alone. Meditation isn't a bubble bath, and while it has a reputation for being a calming exercise, we've all probably found out that it's not really like that while we're practicing. It's a training exercise. So while we might feel calm after we meditate, the experience itself can be uncomfortable at points, especially if we have a lot that's going on in our minds. So, my first tip for you, if you're having some uncomfortable feelings or it's harder to make it through these longer meditations, is to remember to celebrate what you have done. Any time spent in meditation is working for you. And if you need to end early, that's okay. Just make sure you still celebrate all of the efforts that you put in with any of the meditation that you were able to complete. My second piece of advice would to, as best you can, try not to squeeze it in and really set aside that 10 or 15 minutes that you can commit to accepting whatever happens during the meditation. A lot of the times we might want to abort mission on our meditation because we're starting to feel uncomfortable or we're feeling rushed or we start planning. So if we can really set aside that time to accept whatever emotions come our way, it's going to help us make it through the extent of that longer meditation practice. My third piece of advice is to lean in and remember your basics training. So, the reason that we started with the basics is so that we could have that foundation of what we're supposed to be doing when we meditate. We can often get ourselves on really long trains of thought, or we can get sort of overwhelmed with some uncomfortable feelings. Remember to go back to those sensations of feeling your breath or your body. We're here to explore all of our inner experiences, even the uncomfortable ones. So remember to bring curiosity, and it may help to label a feeling that comes up for you. Are you feeling rushed, planning, bored, sleepy? All of these emotions are normal, and all of them will pass. My last and final tip is to try not to force it. Do your best to let go and see if you can bring what I like to call a light focus to your anchor, so either your breath or your body, and don't try to force it or feel too strained to focus on your breath. When in doubt, simply begin again, and remember that a big part of our meditation practice is being accepting and compassionate of ourselves and not trying to force ourselves into a meditation practice. So, we ended our session with reflection questions that are meant to foster that ability for us to really reattune to our values or find out what those values are for us. So I'll quickly read through each of these reflection questions. And if you missed this week's study and would like to engage in the meditation practice and reflection, you'll have them for you in the slide deck. So the first question is, what are your top 3 priorities? Why are these important to you? The second question is, what activities or routines change your energy? And with this question, it can be open to any activity that changes your energy for better or for worse. I think it's worth it to reflect on both of these things so we can really think about what activities we want to add to our life or what activities we might want to be mindful of are more draining for us. The third question is, what passions or dreams deserve more of your thought, time, and energy? Especially as educators, we have a need to feel fulfilled in our work and fulfilled in our lives. So, what are passions or dreams that deserve more of your time? Our next question is, if you had control, what would you take off your mind or plate? Our next question is the same question, but what would you add? Our next question is, what brought you to education? And our last question is, if you could guarantee your students graduate with 3 things, what would they be? So again, if you didn't get a chance to engage in this practice of meditation or reflection and you would like to, then all of the questions will be available to you in our slide deck. And this week on Wednesday, we will be diving into a conversation on meditation and relationships and how we can use our mindfulness practice to leverage better communication skills in all parts of our lives. So looking forward to seeing you guys then. Bye.